I think we're all pretty optimistic about this season. I think we're all also very excited to be back home. Preseason is never easy for a variety of reasons. Whether that's being gone from family, whether that's the rigor and demand of what preseason entails physically and mentally. It's just a lot of time that you're away. But at the same time, that's an opportunity for us to get to know our teammates better, learn more ideas that we're trying to implement on the field. And so it always ends up being ultimately a positive experience for us. But we're all excited to be back in market. Love that we get to have the first game of the season at home. And we're excited to show kind of the fans and ourselves, what we're capable of for this season. So we're excited, and I think the outlook is very positive going into 2025.
Great. We'll go ahead and start with questions in the room and then go to Zoom. Reminder, if you have a question on Zoom, to use the hand raise function. Julian, go ahead.
How do you feel the chemistry is at this point now that you've gone through a whole preseason heading into the opener?
I think it's really good. I think, we added a lot of new pieces. This was probably the biggest turnover we've had in terms of roster from one year to the next. And I think that being said, I thought preseason was a great time for us to do a lot of bonding on and off the field. And guys have really fit in pretty seamlessly. That's young guys, new guys, older veterans from other teams. Everyone feels like we're on the same page and on the same mission. So that's what you want in a team, in a team culture. And so from that standpoint, I'm really excited about the group and excited to see what these newer guys and new faces can bring to the field and to the overall energy around our building every day.
Go ahead, Julian.
What are you seeing from a lot of the younger guys in the growth there? You mentioned them, Madame and Chris, and some of the other ones as well.
Yeah, just so eager to learn. A lot of humility, a lot of eagerness to learn, and a lot of confidence too. I think from last summer to the end of last season, it was kind of like they're getting their feet wet a little bit, and now it's more about, okay, now they're speaking up in meetings, they're having their ideas, they're feeling comfortable enough to share these opinions or comfortable enough to ask questions about a certain situation. And so that's ultimately how you learn even more, is being a little bit more vocal and a little bit more confident in the things that you're saying. So yeah, really, really pleased with the growth of especially the group of younger players this preseason.
Garrett?
BJ has spoken a lot about wanting to create more opportunities since he even started here on the offensive end. Pairing that with a lot of the new faces that you've brought in over the last few months, how have you seen that side of the ball progress?
I think it's evident that we were trying to create more goal-scoring opportunities based on the personnel and based on the players that we brought in, the changes that we made, both in midfield and front line. And so, yeah, I think it's become very clear we've evolved a little bit in that way, especially throughout this preseason with some of our patterns, movements, and there should be, if we're doing our jobs correctly, moments in the attack in the final third where you're saying, oh, that's Nashville. That's their identity. That's how they're creating chances. There should be enough patterns and enough repetition throughout this season where you're like, that's something that they've definitely worked on to create more actions on goal. So I think, we'll see that starting this weekend.
Garrett, go ahead.
So obviously this is the 6th season for Nashville SC. I mean, you've been here a while. What's it kind of like to see just the years kind of keep tacking on and this franchise continue to grow in size and fan base?
I think the reception since game one, since even before that, when it was announced as a MLS club, has been so overwhelmingly positive. Not only the attendance, but the engagement of the fans in and around the community. And so seeing that grow has been awesome. We feel, as players, super lucky. We have an amazing job. We have an amazing fan base. We're in an amazing city. It's now our turn to try and deliver something to the city, to the state, and that's been the goal of year 6. We talk about it every year, trophies, trophies, trophies. Yeah, we come close, but we're going to be consistently competing for every trophy that we can, and that's kind of the pressure that's on us as athletes, which we want. We want to have that pressure. We want to have those big games, those big moments, and so year 6 is no different than any other year. We're obviously trying to win a trophy, which is, it sounds so cliche, but I really think that there's a belief in the group that this could be a great year for us to do it, and we're certainly going to try and do everything we can as players to make it happen.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to touch up on that. You talked about the optimism and then kind of the expectations. What are your goals for this season, kind of as the captain of the team?
Yeah, I think we need to find consistency. We need to find a way that I think BJ's done a great job of stripping out the emotion of a single game. I feel like in the past sometimes we've ridden the highs too high and we've ridden the lows too low, and being so reactionary is not something that we want to be. We want to be a team that is consistent, trusting in the processes that we've now built out, especially over the past year, or the last 6 months, because that's going to be a way better evaluator of where we're going as a club, is if we can stick to these processes that ultimately give us a better chance of winning every game. And so I think as a captain, it's about trying to be as steady as possible, making sure that the team is getting what they need from me, getting what they need from other leaders, and that's going to look different at different times of the season. Sometimes it's going to be, maybe it is reacting a little bit more and trying to fire up the group a little bit. Sometimes it's, hey, everyone's kind of overreacting, let's try and calm this down and step back a little bit. And that's a challenge that you always have in leadership, is reading the room, trying to get the best out of an individual, best out of a group of people. And then ultimately, we talked about all the youth, all the new guys. It's how can we grow this where, yes, maybe I'm the one wearing the captain's armband on the weekend. We have so many amazing leaders, so many guys who are capable of doing the things that a captain would do. How am I going to then empower them to have those moments? And that's part of the challenge, and that's something that I'm excited to do going into this season, because I think we have a lot of guys who can step up in different ways.
Go ahead, Ben, and then Blair.
Yeah, just looking at the Revolution, it feels like they're kind of coming into the year maybe in a similar spot as you guys, where they had maybe a bit of an underperformance last year and made a lot of changes. What are you expecting from them? And I know it's a pretty new group, but have you seen kind of any film on them that stood out to you?
Yeah, today really begins our serious prep and deep dive into video analysis on the Revs, and getting some footage from them and their new look. But you're right, a team that is unsatisfied with how their previous season went, a team that has added some new faces, new people. Will they be in a different formation? Like, you just never know until the early phase of the season. And so we'll dive in deep today, getting a really good scout on them and seeing what we need to maybe adjust on our end. But ultimately, it's trusting what we've done all preseason, being confident in the way that we've worked, and then just kind of fine-tuning the things that we need to adapt to what they do.
You were a team known for its defensive qualities and how organized you were at the back. Last season, it didn't pan out very well. BJ set a goal of 50 goals scored earlier in the offseason. Is there a goal similar on the defensive end in terms of the numbers? And also, what have you seen this offseason that made that kind of the downfalls last year better?
Yeah, I think obviously you can set goals and benchmarks and ways to deem a season successful. I think we have done that in the past. We obviously came short of our goal last year in terms of goals conceded. I think our mentality and approach going into this new season is a little bit more game-by-game specific, and I think our mentality has never changed. Like, we want the 0 every time. Sure, that's not realistic. We can't go 34 games and have 0 goals. But that being said, I think we are going to be a little bit more focused on the game-to-game basis. Could we throw out a number out there? I think the great number that you're always chasing is under a goal a game. That's the gold standard. If you're a team that can go 34 games and you're under 34 goals, that's amazing. That being said, is it the end-all be-all for us? Are we going to say this was a successful defensive year if we're under 34 goals or over? No, but game by game, are we eliminating scoring chances? That's huge, because sometimes you can't prevent. Sometimes you got to tip your hat. Teams are good enough to score goals when you feel like you have a perfect setup. It's going to happen. Now, can we eliminate the ones that are happening on our mistakes? Because I think last year, the difference between last year's defense and maybe what we're used to is how many times it was self-inflicted. That's talking about set pieces, marking, tracking your guy in the box, diving in on a tackle, not being in the right spot. Those are things we can control. And so you're looking at the goals that are more preventable. That's what we have to get way better at. So I know there's a long-winded answer. Might not be the exact number answer that you want, but I think more game by game, more mentality based, and preventing kind of self-inflicted goals against.
And then Blair, and then we'll go to Claudia.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk when you talk about center backs about partnerships, and it's always like, this is the best pair, or this is it's always about a pair. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And what have you seen from all the guys that will be potentially next to you? I mean, is there a ranking there? I mean, are you happy to play with it? Obviously, you're happy to play with whoever, but I guess what are your thoughts on the pairing in general?
Yeah, I think, it's probably overheightened a little bit in my opinion about partnerships, relationships. Like, yeah, you need to have chemistry for sure. You need to be on the same page. The goal of what we're trying to do here at the club is make sure that everyone understands, as a defensive unit, as a center back, whoever it is, this is your expectation. Doesn't have to be, oh, when it's Walker and Jack, this is what you guys do. Oh, when it's Jack and Josh, or Jack and Jason, or Walker and this is what we do as center backs on Nashville. Sure, you can have your own little qualities that maybe enhance a certain part of that, or maybe a deficiency that needs to be really, honed in on going into a game. But the way that we want to play as center backs is going to be the same. Be brave on the ball, open up, give great back angles, trust our ability to maintain a higher line, keep offensive compactness. Like, there are things that are non-negotiables as a center back. And so that's where I think it can get overhyped of like, oh, this partnership, this relationship. At the end of the day, we're doing what is asked of us as a Nashville SC center back. And so, sure, communication, chemistry, having a run of games, knowing maybe a little bit more of their tendencies is helpful. Is it the end-all, be-all? I'm not as much into that as maybe some other people.
Walker, you already stated that this is going to be your sixth season just on this team. What makes you personally get up and be ready every time you come to the field and play and stuff, even going through some painful injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I'm as motivated as ever. I think wanting so much for this team, for this group of guys, and wanting so much for this city, this state, just that privilege that we get to have the job that we do is unbelievable. And so I think you have to wake up with a sense of gratitude, and that's going to help you attack each and every day. And so, yeah, I'm motivated. I wasn't happy with last year at all. And, coming into this season, I think we have just a bunch of hardworking players that are willing to make those sacrifices and also do it with the right mentality. It can still be fun. We can still have fun during the job that we have. It doesn't mean that working harder is us showing up and really operating at a militaristic level. It's like, no, you can still have fun in what we do, but fun is also winning for us as pros. And so how are we going to maintain that competitive environment and that balance and have a work-life balance a little bit too? I think you're balancing all those things, but the motivation piece, we get to be professional athletes. We've all dreamed of this our whole lives. That's the piece that we can never take for granted, and I think that's the base level of what this group of players, I think we all have in common, is gratitude and willingness to work for the other person, and that's what it is at the end of the day.
Now, even after going through all that frustration last season, obviously the VJ was here for just a few games at the end of the season. There wasn't much that, he could try everything he did, but there wasn't much. It was not enough time. How different does it feel now within the group, especially when it comes to talking to you guys against this idea?
Yeah, I think it's a lot different. I think, when you come in mid-season, especially with where we were on the table, the kind of race for playoffs, it's more about trying to put a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. You're trying to a quick fix. It's how can we possibly get enough points to make the playoffs? What can we tweak from a game-to-game basis to make it happen? Now it's a whole different ballgame. We've had the time to grow these ideas, the preparation from a video standpoint as well. No, this is really what we're trying to do, and BJ evolving too, right? He probably came in with a clear idea of I think this will work, and then now it's maybe oh, well, now we have some other pieces that maybe this works better. And so he's evolving as well, and that's part of being a head coach, is adapting to the situation and the hand that you're dealt. But no question, having the time that we've had now with the off-season training, with our preseason training, there's just a similar wavelength that's running through the team about our identity as a team. And I think we had the time to build that out, whereas last year you don't really have time to reinvent the wheel. You're thrown in the mix of it in a playoff hunt. And so it's a little bit more difficult. But, yeah, I think we're all on the same page now.